Welcome to my September reading vlog. It's actually only September 2nd, but I thought I would get an early start. I've been reading The Return of the King. I love this. September came in with golden days and silver nights. This is at the end of Return of the King. I'm almost through. I just have a little bit of the appendixes left. But September always seems like a good month for Lord of the Rings because Bilbo and Frodo's birthday. I'm trying to decide if I should try to make some kind of Middle-earth inspired dessert or some kind of scones or something that hobbits would like. I guess if I wanted to be really authentic, I could do like rabbit and potato stew for Sam. Actually, I saw some Lord of the Rings inspired travel posters on Etsy. And I was thinking, I have my butter poster up there now, but I was thinking they would look really great above my computer. I have to decide and order those at some point. I have not yet decorated for Halloween. I'm going to wait. You know what? When I film my Boujee Readathon TBR, I will decorate in preparation for that. But that, I'm probably not going to post that until like the middle of September. I'm so excited for Boo to You this year though. I have a co-host, Anne from Princess Lessons. The challenges are inspired by the original Magic Kingdom ticket booklet because of course it's the 50th anniversary. Walt Disney World and the Magic Kingdom opened 50 years ago, October 1st. Was the opening day. Obviously wanted to make Boo to You kind of special for the 50th, but basically the challenges are for each of the 5 ticket categories, because that's how they used to do it. You had an A ticket, a B ticket, a C ticket, a D ticket, and an E ticket, and you could use it at like one of a select few attractions. So the challenge this year is to choose one attraction from each bracket, A through E, and then read a book that you think is inspired by that attraction. I'll link my full Boo to You Readathon announcement video up above in case you'd like to check that out. But yes, I've been mulling over my options. I think I'm gonna order a couple books. I'll have to see if I can then find space for them somewhere on my shelves. But yes, I thought I'd just give you a quick beginning of September update. Yesterday, the 1st of September, it felt like fall arrived so suddenly because it had been like really beautiful and warm and summery before that throughout August, and then September 1st it was super rainy and gray. And then today has been golden and beautiful, but it has been much cooler than it has been for a long time, which is so nice. I do love summer, but I'm getting excited for fall, for winter, for the cooler weather. Anyway, since yesterday was a rainy day, it was very fun to curl up with a good book. I actually finished Ballet Shoes by Noelle Streatfeild. I found a whole bunch of my old children's books recently, and I thought it'd be fun to give this one a reread. My mom recently reread it, and she told me that she thought it needed a sequel and that I should write a sequel to it. And I can see what she means. When you get to the end of the book, it's like the action of the book has wrapped up really nicely, but like all of the characters are about to go off and do new adventures. And they're so charming. You want to go with them. You want to hear what happens. I'll have to Google it because I don't think Noelle Streatfeild wrote a sequel to Ballet Shoes. Wasn't it this same author? That I think there's like a Skating Shoes and a Theater Shoes, like there are some other ones. But Ballet Shoes, as you can see from the cover, is about 3 little orphans. They're known as the Fossils, and that is because their great uncle Matthew, who's known as GUM, that's his acronym, he actually just adopted them. He found them as basically abandoned as babies, and he brought them home. He lived in London with his niece and Nana. And since great uncle Matthew is, I think, an archaeologist or a paleontologist, and so usually he would go on these expeditions and bring back actual fossils. But then he brings back these tiny baby girls, so their last name is Fossil, appropriately. And GUM is often away on these expeditions. In fact, none of them really remember him as they're growing up because he's been away for so long and the finances are starting to run short. But so they end up taking in boarders. They rent out the rooms in their big London flat, and they get like just the best people come and rent their rooms. And they have this wonderful little community that springs up. And the three girls end up being able to take classes at a local ballet school. The three girls are Pauline, Petrova, and Posey, and they end up going to a children's academy for arts and dance. And so one of the little girls was dropped off at the house by Gum with just her mother's pair of ballet shoes. But they all end up learning ballet, learning to dance, and, you know, planning to go on stage and try to earn money for the family as soon as they can. So they're always counting their pennies, counting their shillings, but they still have so much fun. And it's so cool to hear about like the world behind the stage and the auditions that they go to and the plays that they end up performing in. One of them is Maeterlinck's. I'm probably saying that incorrectly. Maeterlinck's Bluebird. And I feel like if I haven't heard that play, I've definitely heard that name in Eva Ibbotson, because Eva Ibbotson writes a lot about like Austria and the opera and plays and music. So I'm feeling like I'm going to need to look up that composer or writer. But it's so fun and so sweet to hear like about the behind the scenes. There's lots of Shakespeare because they act in a few Shakespeare plays, and they also learn pieces of Shakespeare as their, you know, maudition, they call it, like my audition, but it becomes one word, like their set piece that they've learned for audition. Before several auditions, they are hard put to find new and beautiful clothes because they obviously want to make a good impression, but, you know, money is tight, and they always manage to find a way. I loved this sentence. There is no doubt a new dress is a help under all circumstances. I did read this growing up, but it's been a very long time since I revisited it, and it is just so sweet. I just enjoyed it so, so much. I did finish up my Elizabeth Goudge, The Rosemary Tree. It did pick up. I felt like it didn't have a whole lot of action in it, and actually, there never really was a whole lot of action in like the present tense, but there were some sort of mysteries from the past, and there were like long, you know, descriptions kind of going back into the past and filling you in on what had happened. So that definitely gave some interest to the book. As always with Elizabeth Goudge, just so many beautiful, thought-provoking passages. It was supposed that if Harriet had a soothing nightcap the last thing, it helped her to go to sleep. Harriet disliked hot milk and longed for a cup of tea instead, but she liked to foster illusions about her sleeping. Also, it was part of her code in illness to accept whatever was done to her, given to her, and said to her in the way of treatments, medicines, food, and advice with equal gratitude, dislike it or not. Illness was admirable training in the creative art of grateful acceptance. What a great descriptive phrase that, you know, you don't normally think of that, the creative art of grateful acceptance. Pain accepted was just pain and heavy, but Harriet believed that pain gladly accepted took wings, went somewhere and did something. She based this belief on her experience of hot milk, which just drunk down lay heavy on the stomach, but gratefully accepted settled well. Harriet was not a naturally pious woman, and she was not sentimental. She merely went by results. So yes, this was lovely, and you know what? I have added the last couple of, these are the hotter books, Elizabeth Goudge's, that they published a couple years ago, and I was missing the Damarochet trilogy, which these are just absolutely classic Goudge's, and I felt like I needed them on my shelf. So one of you guys actually said that you had good luck if you set up the like reminder feature on Book Depository, so like you can put in your email and say, remind me when this comes back in stock, and I did that, and so I was able to grab up the ones that don't seem to be in stock very often for a reasonable price. And so now I think I have all of the Hotter Books editions of Goudge. I'm thinking next year I will reread the Damarochet trilogy because it's been too long since I've last done that. Actually, I do though have one Goudge. These are my Girls Gone By Goudge editions. And these are more of Goudge's children's books. I read Smoky House and The World of Elizabeth Goudge earlier this year, and I've already read Henrietta's House and Sister of the Angels, but I have not yet read The Valley of Songs. So we'll see if I have time to get to this Goudge this year. camera. Go play with your basket, Cymbeline. So I'm getting ready to film my You Readathon announcement. I feel like this cat, which I've had this for ages, since I was really little, it was my Halloween cat. I feel like it's the same size as Cymbeline. But she definitely would not stay still long enough to be my familiar in the announcement video. It's so funny that she showed up just before Halloween. Perfect timing to have a cat. Although she's more tiger-like in appearance than like a true kind of witch's friend black cat. But anyway, I have all of my decorations and I am going to decide how to decorate. I think I'll leave the butter poster though. It's kind of orangey, it has good Halloween vibes. September is moving along at a positively alarming rate, so I thought I'd better sit down and give you a quick little reading update. Although first, should I tell you about my shirt? This is the American Girl doll. Can you guess? It's Felicity. They had, I think it was like for the 35th anniversary of American Girl, they had like a t-shirt maker and they had these cool designs where like this pattern is based on one of Felicity's outfits. I always thought this was one of her most beautiful outfits. Look at that little Spencer. If I could have a blouse like this, I should probably try to make myself one. But I just thought how it was so neat that it's like the background. You could, you know, kind of personalize it. So I got one for Samantha and one for Felicity because they were kind of my two original American Girl dolls. Anyway, I have dived into the Purgatorio, the second part of the Divine Comedy by Dante. This is the Dorothy Sayers translation. I have a whole bunch of Dorothy Sayers' books up there. I'm just a huge fan of hers. I love Letters to a Diminished Church, which actually in November, I'm going to be part of a read-along live stream over on Christy Lewis Dostoevsky in Space, her booktube channel. It's just so neat that Dorothy Sayers wrote these amazing, fantastic mysteries, the Lord Peter mysteries. It's like a cross between Sherlock Holmes and P.G. Wodehouse, you know, like Sherlock Holmes and Bertie Wooster. It's so marvelous. But then she also wrote so beautifully on faith, and she was so passionate about faith that she sat down and translated Dante's whole Divine Comedy, and you can tell how much she loves Dante. And earlier this year, I read her translation of Inferno, and it was so good. The notes were just so brilliant and really, I mean, it's already beautiful, but like the notes just brought it alive even more. It's like getting to discuss Dante with a friend. When you read her notes, you can see how deep she dives into Dante. There was one note, because Dante is quite precise about timing in this, both the journey through hell, the journey through Inferno, and also like what time he arrives at Purgatorio and when he's starting to climb, and like even like where the stars are. And apparently he got something wrong, and there's this one long note where Dorothy Sayers explains that, well, there was this kind of confusion in the almanac that was printed that year, and so probably that's why he got it wrong, although maybe he just made a mistake. It was just a really fun kind of history mystery, like very small detail. When I was finishing up Inferno, I was mentioning how much I was looking forward to Purgatorio, because now we're getting into like the good examples, you know? Because the people in Inferno are people who are kind of imprisoned by their own sins, and the whole thing is really an allegory of like what happens to you when you sin, when you turn against God. So it's obviously kind of the things to guard against, but this is nice because it's a little more hopeful. One of the points she made in the notes was that in Inferno, like especially the deeper down you go, the more discord there is. Like the city just breaks apart. There's no community. It's every man for himself. You can't rely on anyone, you know, like just every shred of community is broken. But even at the very beginning, Dante and his guide Virgil see some souls arriving across the river Tiber, because I think that's the river running through Rome, right outside St. Peter's. And they all get out together singing. Another thing, when they first arrive at the foot of the mountain of Mount Purgatory, Dante mentions that the only plant in the ocean were like a whole bunch of reeds. Dorothy Sayers notes that, well, that's because, you know, to comply with the will of God, you need to be flexible like a reed. You need to have humility and not pride. As they're climbing up, the sun is shining on the mountain, and Dante realizes he sees his own shadow, but not Virgil's, because Virgil is a shade from limbo. Dante, of course, in this is still a human, and he's been given this sort of divine permission to make this incredible journey with Virgil through Inferno and Purgatorio, and then of course he will meet up with Beatrice to go through Paradiso. Virgil says, "Though shadowless I go, be not dismayed, nor marvel more than at the heavens, which fleet their radiance through from sphere to sphere unstayed. Bodies like mine to bear pain, cold, and heat, that power ordains, whose will forever spreads a veil between its working and our wit. Madness, that reason lodged in human heads, should hope to traverse backward and unweave the infinite path three-personed substance treads. Content you with the quia, sons of Eve, for had you power to see the whole truth plain, no need had been for Mary to conceive." I liked that passage because that's something I kind of think about a lot. I feel like God gave us the power to reason, and like obviously there are a whole bunch of things that we can and should reason, and all sorts of things about our world that we can uncover and explain and understand. But when you come right down to it, there is a veil between the working of God and our wit. There is that leap of faith that's needed, that facts won't take you all the way. You have to work for it and work for your faith. I'm only a couple cantos in, but I'm definitely enjoying Dante so far. Cymbeline, my kitten, has been quite a distraction, so I feel like I haven't made quite as much progress as I like. But actually, I sat with her and read her a canto aloud because I figured, well, you know, you're trying to socialize the kitten, make sure she's used to people being around, and apparently you're also supposed to talk to the kitten so they get used to human voices. So I figured, well, that way I can get some reading done and sit with Cymbeline and help socialize her at the same time. I'm thinking I might film some reading to Cymbeline clips and put them up on her channel. I have to read her Cymbeline, obviously, at some point. And then I am actually halfway through a memoir of Jane Austen and Other Family Recollections by James E. Austen Lee, her nephew. If Mr. Collins wrote a biography of Jane Austen, this is the book that it would be. Her nephew was Mr. Collins. What can you say? That's just how it is. When you read it through that lens, it's just kind of funny and enjoyable. If you read it looking for like a really serious Austen biography with like lots and lots of facts, you're gonna be disappointed. You should start with another biography. We're very lucky as Austen fans to live now, because like these letters that he just kind of quotes parts of, we can now read the whole letter. Or like when he says something about, oh, Austen's niece said this about her. I'm like, why are you being coy? I know you're talking about Fanny. So thinking of it as a sort of Mr. Collins biography, I don't really mind. All of his digressions, all of his family gossip, he quotes an entire letter from, I think, Jane Austen's like great-grandmother, like from the 1600s maybe. It's actually kind of fascinating. You might think, well, that doesn't really tell me much about Jane Austen, but Jane Austen was very close to her family, and I feel like it is really fascinating to get to know her family and her connections. I was just realizing that maybe I should save this for Victober. It would be kind of an ironic Victober read, because Jane Austen is not Victorian. It always kind of bugs me when there are Victorian like paintings on the cover of Jane Austen works, or when people assume she's Victorian. She's not. She was in the Regency period, the Georgian period. She was born in 1775. She died in in the 18 teens is when she passed away. She was only 40, she was fairly young. But her nephew was very much a Victorian. So it's funny, this kind of feels like a Victorian perspective on Jane Austen. So I could save it and finish it in Victober. That could be kind of fun. Well, I have Cymbeline here today. She's kind of fascinated by the paper. Look at the fish. You want to chase it? Do you want to chase the fish? Do you want to read the book? Do you want to say hello? Say hello to everybody. She's growing fast. It's been so funny editing the videos that I took when she first arrived. She was so little, and now she's so big. She's so pouncy. She's so fast. She runs around. At first she was not really sure about running around at all. But now, here, do you want to show them how fast you are? Show them how fast you are. Can you chase it? Chase it real fast. Whoa, good job. Back over here. Look, look, look. Over here, Cymbeline. Over here. Over here. Great job. I did give Cymbeline her own YouTube channel. So if you are interested in more Cymbeline, you will have to follow that. No, you want to play with your basket now? That's okay. That works too. As I mentioned earlier, I feel like my reading has suffered a bit because I've had kitten brain. When I'm not taking care of Cymbeline, it's I'm where is Cymbeline? You know, does she need something? Is she getting into trouble? Is she okay? I've never had a cat before. I didn't know how to take care of a cat, so I've been learning quite a bit about kittens, watching all sorts of kitten tutorials. The book I have today is my Shakespeare for the month of September, Two Noble Kinsmen. This is the Oxford Shakespeare. So yes, I finished the play Cymbeline. That was my August Shakespeare read. I mentioned Cymbeline a little bit in last month's reading vlog, but I did really enjoy it. I think maybe it's my favorite Shakespeare play I've read this year, and I've read one a month. So this month, The Two Noble Kinsmen is one that he supposedly wrote part of, and actually I was reading the introduction. Generally I skip introductions because I feel like I don't need somebody else to tell me what to think of this book. I'd just rather read it for myself and come to my own conclusions. I have to say this is the second book recently where I've found myself fascinated by the introduction, Dorothy Sayers' introductions to the Dante her Dante translations are really fascinating. She has so much background information. See, that's a great introduction. That's an interesting introduction. It's not where they're like summarizing the text. It's where they're giving you background information from outside the text. So in this case, the editor is talking about like why The Two Noble Kinsmen, he thinks, is a Shakespeare play, because I guess in the past there has been some doubt about it. And like he's talking about how the publisher who put Shakespeare's name on it back in the 1600s, he's like, this is a trustworthy publisher, okay? He wouldn't have done that. He wouldn't have said it was Shakespeare when it wasn't. But he also tells about the collaborator. So apparently Shakespeare wrote this with a man named Fletcher, another playwright named Fletcher. And the introduction is saying that Fletcher's style is detectable in many scenes. Whoa, look at you jumping. Is detectable in many scenes of Henry VIII, which I also read Henry VIII. I guess Henry VIII was like written and performed around the same time. It's so fun in the introduction to hear like about, oh, this is when, you know, the two noblemen was performed. So yes, I was starting the play and then I got kind of distracted by the introduction. I actually went and looked at the introduction because of what was in the prologue of the play. In that, they mention Chaucer. Oh, where'd you go? You okay? Oh, you're just hanging out back there. Anyway, what was I saying? See, this is like my month in a nutshell. It's like I make a little progress in reading and then kitten time. Another thing they mention in the introduction is a play that they think, a different play that they think Fletcher and Shakespeare wrote. Let's see, how did he refer to it? There is yet another play which they may have written together, the mysterious Cardenio, of which there are tantalizing records but no surviving text. There was another collaboration play that I read earlier this year, Pericles. I can't remember who it is they thought wrote Pericles with Shakespeare, but in the introduction they were saying that this was like later in Shakespeare's life, and you know, he'd earned a lot of money. He like kind of spent a lot of time in retirement at Stratford, like the way in The Tempest, Prospero kind of gives his goodbye. They're saying, oh, was that Shakespeare kind of bowing off the stage? But they were saying, you know what, he still did some work and he collaborated with some people. He was just winding down a little. So here, I thought it would be fun to read you guys the part of the prologue. Nice and gentle with the feet, Cymbeline. So this is about the play itself. It has a noble breeder, and a pure, a learned, and a poet. Never went more famous yet, twixt Poe and Silver Trent. Chaucer, of all admired, the story gives. There, constant to eternity it lives. If we let fall the nobleness of this, and the first sound of this child here be a hiss, in other words, if the audience hisses and boos, how will it shake the bones of that good man, and make him cry from underground? And then this is like what Chaucer would say. Oh, fan from me the witless chaff of such a writer, that blasts my bays and my famed works, makes lighter than Robin Hood. In the footnotes it says Robin Hood is basically like a popular rather than a courtly romance. So I guess that's like the kind of penny press. Where'd you go, Cymbeline? She's just sitting there. She's just sitting behind me. This is the fear we bring, for, to say truth, it were an endless thing, and too ambitious to aspire to him, weak as we are, and almost breathless swim in this deep water. Do but you hold out your helping hands, and we shall tack about, and something do to save us. You shall hear scenes, though below his art, may yet appear, worth 2 hours' travail. To his bones sweet sleep, content to you. If this play do not keep a little dull time from us, we perceive our losses fall so thick we must needs leave. So yes, oh wow, great jump. So I've only just made a start in The Noble Kinsman. So maybe I'll read some more out loud to you, Cymbeline. You want to listen to some more Shakespeare? Wow, look at that. Look at this. Sometimes she's so frisky, and the way she gets up on 2 legs like that is amazing. You're like a biped, Cymbeline. Yes, I'm wearing my Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party shirt today because I'm very excited for the Boujee You Readathon next month. I feel like I really need to get myself together and like finish some of my September reads because I have so many things I'm excited to try in October. I did finish the notes of Return of the King, which was really fun. I think I might wait a little bit before starting the Silmarillion, but I would like to start that too. So many books, so little time, as always. Speaking of Lord of the Rings, my cousin recently turned me on to a podcast, Merry and Pippin, from the actors who played Merry and Pippin in the movies have a podcast, and it is so fun. I think it's called The Friendship Onion. The first episode I listened to was their interview with Sam, Oh my gosh, why can't I remember Sam's name? What's the actor's name who plays Sam? Oh dear, I can't remember. He also plays Rudy. We love Notre Dame. We love Rudy. Rudy's a classic, isn't it? That actor is awesome though, and he obviously has like a great rapport with Merry and Pippin. Merry and Pippin have a great rapport. I was surprised listening to the podcast. I felt like mostly I was going to be interested in it because I love Lord of the Rings, and it'd be fun to hear more about their kind of behind the scenes stories from filming. But actually, I don't mind it when Merry and Pippin just sort of, you know, chat about their days and make jokes. Like, it's really funny. I'd be interested to hear from you guys. Do you listen to a lot of podcasts? Do you have any recommendations or movie recommendations? I feel like I'm always trying to think of good movies to watch. And, like, sometimes, like, my family and I or my cousin and I, we, like, mention one and we're like, oh, we need to remember that the next time we watch a movie. But then if I don't write it down, I don't remember it. One movie that we did actually recently watch. She's interested in my hand. No, you go for the fish, Cymbeline. The fish, that's what you can go for. We watched Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, which I had never seen before. Like, it was just excellent movie. So well put together, like important topic, somewhat timeless topic, because unfortunately I think the things that happen in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington are probably have always been true to a greater or lesser extent. In the movie, Mr. Smith is this young guy, does a lot with young boys, like runs the kind of boy guides, has like a little boy guides newspaper, and he ends up getting pulled in to be, I think, like an honorary senator in Washington, D.C. And like Mr. Smith has always been obsessed with American history and, you know, totally looks up to like Jefferson and Lincoln. So he's, you know, so idealistic coming into D.C. I know this from the beginning, but the leadership of his state are really crooked, and they're all in the pay of this man named Taylor, and they have this like scheme that's like buried in a bill in Congress that like is about to go through, and it's like a big kind of graft. I feel like this isn't really a spoiler. This is kind of the basic premise of the movie. But if you don't want it spoiled, there's your warning. But yeah, Mr. Smith finds out about this scheme and is, of course, just horrified and appalled, especially since his fellow senator he really looked up to, and like the Senator Payne, I think is his name, was really close friends with his father, and like they used to be known as the champions of lost causes. I'm so annoyed. The camera stopped recording and I have no idea what was the last thing that I said. I was talking about Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Excellent movie. Definitely worth watching. I'd never seen it before, but I think super important. Great characters. I love Mr. Smith. I also love Saunders. Saunders was my favorite. My favorite quotation was when Saunders is a couple sheets to the wind and she's talking to a newspaper friend, and she's talking about something Mr. Smith told her, because of course Mr. Smith is all idealistic and green and Saunders is kind of more jaded. She's been around DC a while, but both of them, their hearts are really in the right place. So Mr. Smith's kind of idealistic talk really like speaks to her. You know, the thing she says to her friend is, you know, have you ever seen the wind leaning against the prairie grasses at sunset? And her friend says in reply, no, is the wind out there tired? So yeah, there's just great writing, and just like the whole story of the movie is so well put together. Makes you hope that if you were ever tried, like Mr. Smith is, that you would find, you know, support, like the way Saunders really is invaluable, helps Mr. Smith stand up to power. So, you know, hope that you would have the courage and the support to stand up to power if you are ever in that situation. Also, just a reminder that there are forces out there trying to manipulate you, and sometimes it's really hard to get the whole story because someone might be holding part of it back. And so you should always be looking for multiple sources, and you should, you know, sharpen up your own judgment so that you can rely on your own judgment. And if someone ever says, you know, don't question this, or just shut up and do it this way, like, listen to me, there's only one right opinion, this is what you have to do, that's a situation you should be suspicious of. And yes, even though it seems like, you know, one person standing up to power isn't going to make a difference, in the long run it does, and in the long run it's really important, those individuals who are willing to stand up to power. Saunders says to Mr. Smith at one point, you know, Lincoln had his pains and his tailors that he had to deal with, that he had to fight his way through. You did not just jump at my hand, did you? You're not allowed to do that, Cymbeline. We've gone over this so many times. You don't jump at the hand, okay? You know this. And like... Sometimes she lets me pet her. She lets me have the privilege of petting her and the privilege of buying her everything she needs. Sometimes she just can't be bothered. She wants to pounce and explore. But yes, I really enjoyed Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. If you guys have any suggestions of movies, especially older movies, it's really fun. You know, I enjoy older books a lot because a classic is timeless and, you know, you'll connect with it even though it was written a long time ago, but it's also great because it is a trip into the past, and it's like you get to talk to people who, you know, from another time period. So yeah, if you guys have any old movie recommendations, let me know. I've been thinking of rewatching some Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. I do love those. And an old TV show my family was thinking it'd be fun to try to look up and watch is actually two things. Since the 50th anniversary of Disney is coming up, it'd be fun to try to go back and watch the original like opening day broadcast of Walt Disney World. But it would also be really fun to try to watch Walt's Wonderful World of Disney program, the one that he put on before they opened Disneyland, where he was like talking all about what it was going to be like. I don't know if that's available on Disney Plus. It should be, for sure. We were watching one of the behind the attraction shows on Disney Plus, which they are fun. The editing of it just ruins it for me. Like, they did all these cool interviews with all these cool Imagineers. They had this incredible archive of old footage to use. And I feel like they edited it together as if they were like making a snarky meme for Twitter. And like the narrator is totally snarky. In fact, in the episode about trains, literally the narrator at the beginning is so derogatory and acting like, why would there be a train at the entrance of a park? That is so lame. Why would the castle not be right there? Like, who wants to see a train station? That's so boring. It seems like I'm exaggerating, but I'm only exaggerating a little bit. It was that annoying. If I'm watching a show about behind the attraction Disney trains, obviously I love Disney trains. Obviously I think Walt was genius. Though his pacing and like the storytelling and the way we start outside the train station, then go under, and then we see the castle opening up on Main Street. And like, you, narrator, writer of this show, are daring to mock it? So yeah, unfortunately, it's like there are good nuggets in that show, but I would rather just go and watch Walt's original World of Disney, where like he actually believes what he's saying and is not unnecessarily mocking it. I don't actually know if The Wonderful World of Disney is on Disney Plus. I'm gonna have to look for it. So anyway, that's what I've been watching and listening to, and a little bit reading lately. And here's Cymbeline. If you want to see some more of Cymbeline, you can go subscribe to her YouTube channel if you haven't already. Yeah, you've got like 200 subscribers already, Cymbeline. That's crazy. Should we get you some dinner? Are you hungry? I'm gonna go get you some dinner. All right? Not that you deserve it, as pouncy as you are, but I'll go get you some dinner. Well, friends, I thought I would finish up my September reading vlog with a quick book haul. I let myself buy some things for the Boujee You Readathon, so you'll have already seen most of these if you already watched my announcement video and TBR, because most of them are the books on my TBR. What kind of started me off was this book, which I read a couple years ago for Boujee You. This was Family Robinson. It's this cool Puffin Classics edition, and when I was thinking of buying The Wind in the Willows or Around the World in 80 Days, I was like comparing all the different editions, and when I saw that there were some beautiful covers in this same set, I decided, you know what? It would be fun to have a little Puffin Classics section on my bookshelf. It is always so nice when you get books in the same series and they just look so beautiful, all lined up together. With Around the World in 80 Days, there actually was a hardcover Penguin English Library edition that was very tempted. It had like just such a cool travel design, you know, travel stamps and like around the globe, around the world in 80 days. But I usually go for the Penguin English Library paperbacks. The only hardcovers that I have are the Jane Austen Penguin English Library hardcover editions, which makes sense because Jane Austen is kind of my ultimate author. So I resisted the PEL hardcover of Around the World in 80 Days. And I do really like this one. I love the guys running around the globe and the way they're on the spine too. Just so much fun. As I was researching different Wind in the Willows editions, which there were some beautiful covers out there, but I love them sitting around for a picnic right there. One of the editions though had a quotation from, I think, C.S. Lewis, talking about just how wonderful Kenneth Grahame was, how wonderful The Wind in the Willows is, and it made me so surprised that I have not yet picked this up. So I'm very excited to be hanging out with Mr. Toad during Boo to You. And then I did let myself get 2 other books that technically aren't on my Boo to You TBR, but I just really thought they'd be great to have on my bookshelves. One of them is Grimm's Fairy Tales, so you know, if I have time next month, I could dip into this because I feel like it could be a perfect fit for a whole bunch of the different Fantasyland rides and attractions. It is always so fun to go back and read the original, you know, that inspired Disney, and I feel like these are books that I often don't get around to, except when Boo to You Readathon comes around. So it is really nice to have that extra motivation. Last year, or the year before, I read Hans Christian Andersen's The Little Mermaid for the first time, and I really enjoyed that. I was actually tempted by a Puffin Classics edition of Hans Christian Andersen, but the weird thing about it was, it seemed to be somebody else retelling Hans Christian Andersen tales. But if I get one for my shelf, I want to have the original Hans Christian Andersen. So I just went with this Grimm's Fairy Tales edition. I don't think I have ever dived into Grimm's, Jacob and Wilhelm's fairy tales, so definitely need to get to this at some point. This book is one I am very familiar with. It is so charming. Daddy Longlegs by Jean Webster. This is just such an adorable story. Join Judy for some splendid times. A trustee of the John Grier Orphanage has offered to send Judy Abbott to college. The only requirements are that she must write to him every month and that she can never know who he is. Judy's life at college is a whirlwind of friends, classes, parties, and a growing friendship with the handsome Jervis Pendleton. With so much happening in her life, Judy can scarcely stop writing letters to her mysterious benefactor she calls Daddy Longlegs, or wondering who on earth he could possibly be. I just really like this cover with the pink and the like cherry blossoms and her sitting up there reading a book, and there's the long shadow of Daddy Longlegs in the corner. So I thought it would be great to have this on my shelf. I've had my eye on this box set of Mary Poppins books for quite a while. This is Harcourt Press, Houghton Mifflin, cover art 2015 by Genevieve Gabot. I think these probably came out for when Mary Poppins Returns, the movie came out, but they're just so cute. We have the original Mary Poppins, number 2, Mary Poppins Comes Back. It's fun to see the Banks family grow on these covers. Mary Poppins Opens the Door, and then Mary Poppins in the Park. I think there are actually a couple other Mary Poppins books apart from these, but one of them is maybe like recipes, and I think one of them is like a Christmas special. I have only actually read the original Mary Poppins. I think I am gonna let myself skip ahead and start on Mary Poppins Opens the Door for Boo to You. But now that I have them on my shelf, obviously I'm going to have to get to the other sequels as well, and these covers, how adorable is that illustration style. Just so cute. I did not purchase my whole Boo to You Readathon TBR. 2 of them, Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe and Riders of the Purple Sage by Zane Grey, are in the public domain. So I was able to pick up free Kindle ebooks of that. It is so nice when you're reading old books that are in the public domain. You know, you can find them on Gutenberg.org, or if you dig, sometimes Amazon tries to hide them, but they are there in the Kindle eShop if you dig and find them. And then I had to add some Osa Johnson to my Boo to You TBR. The Martin and Osa Safari Museum in Chanute, Kansas very kindly sent me these 2 books. They had some extras, and I haven't read them yet. They kind of are bookends of Osa's adventures, because I've talked about I Married Adventure, which really gives kind of the overview of their lives together as explorers and photographers and filmmakers, but Bride and the Solomons is about when they first got married and went to the Solomons Islands and traveled there, and then Last Adventure was their last expedition together. This was to Borneo, deep into the jungle, so this is my Jungle Cruise book. These editions do, of course, have some of their incredible Beautiful photographs, so very excited to page through. And I did not have quite as good of a reading month as I had hoped. I'm gonna blame it on the kitten. Although if Cymbeline hindered my reading plans, she certainly did make it a memorable September. And I do have my plan. I have my TBR for October, so I think I should be able to get through some more. And it's not quite the end of September. I always like console myself with that when I'm posting my reading vlog a little early. It's like I do have quite a bit of September left. Maybe, I don't know if I'll have time for this or not, but I meant to start Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh this month, so we'll have to see. Hopefully I can dive into that this weekend and make some progress. I was watching Kate, the lovely Kate Howe's TBR for Victober and Boujee, and it is very ambitious. So I feel like my Boujee Readathon TBR is fairly modest. Kate is going to be my role model. Hopefully I'll be able to squeeze some more books in. It's been so much fun to see everybody's TBR posts on Instagram, on YouTube, or just in the comments and hear what you're planning to read for Boujee Readathon. It's so exciting to have so many of you guys participating. It's great to have Anne on board as a co-host. I'm just so excited for next month. Definitely leave me a comment down below and tell me what your fall reading plans are. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed. I'll talk to you guys again soon, and until then, I hope you have a magical and a bookish day. Bye.